Hello and welcome to the Drama and Facebook Marketing Can Change the World initiative. With me, I have Facebook Chief Revenue Officer, David Fischer. Welcome. And we're going to talk a little bit about this project, and we're going to talk about how, not only just how the project came together, because the Drama and Facebook came together early in the year, as you know, David, before the global pandemic wave, to look at how marketing and advertising industry can help sort of rethink how SMEs are run by minority groups, and also see how our industry can use this sort of creative prowess to help create more resilient businesses. That we gave three groups, UK, US, and Singapore, creative briefs to look at some of the challenges that the SMEs face, and we asked them to come up with big ideas, which not just those groups, but hopefully at the end of this, the industry can come together and look at how they can help solving this business. So David, you were there when the groups presented those ideas, and I want you to tell us your first thoughts, your sentiments about those creative ideas.
Well, thanks, Anu. Look, the first thing I just want to say that really blew me away overall was just the quality of the work and how much work went into this. You helpfully reminded me beforehand that all of the participants, all of the teams had full-time day jobs and were doing this on the side at nights, and you wouldn't know it from the quality of the work. I hope everyone out there has had a chance to look at it. So I just want to commend everybody involved. I thought the work was excellent, and again, it speaks to just how much innovation, creativity, and skill there is in the industry. So that, look, that was the first place I was excited to see it. I think, look, the second piece was just seeing the different, each of the three teams have slightly different briefs, and just seeing where they took it and the ways that we can help small businesses, and especially about what they're going through. So look, across the board, I thought we had three really strong groups, exceptional work. And one of the things that after seeing it, that we decided to do at Facebook is to provide each of these groups advertising credit. Some came out and asked for it. Some of them were a little too polite maybe to do it, or just a little too shy, or I don't know what it was. Maybe it was self-doubt. Whatever it was, we want to support each of these groups.
That is indeed really exciting news, and I'm sure the teams would be excited as well. Because as you say, obviously all of them have day jobs, all of them are in very high profile marketing and advertising jobs. And then you wouldn't really know from not just the presentation, but the Facebook pages that they've already set up, the WhatsApp groups that they've already set up. And I can see from the kind of activity that's happening, post working hours, during weekends, it is ginormous amounts of work, as you said, that they put in. So it's quite life affirming. And thank you again for putting those ad credits for those teams as well. Which really brings me to the next question, is that Facebook, obviously, you have been lending that kind of support to the SMEs, especially in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. You've ramped it up quite a bit. The other thing which has just happened is that your latest report, the global report on the state of small businesses, that has come out as well. So in terms of what's happening to our economies and indeed our societies at the moment, can you tell us a bit about, first of all, the report that's come out, and also about the motivations that Facebook has to help these small businesses thrive in these times?
Absolutely. Look, there's so much important content here, so many important issues just in that question you just asked, Anu. And I think let's just start with wherever we are around the world. Small businesses are at the heart of our communities, right? I mean, and Facebook as a company, our mission is to build community. And look, if you just think about your life now versus your life pre-COVID, I know one of the most liberating things, even in a world in which we're all still pretty locked down, and certainly here in the US, very locked down, is just the fact that we've been able to go out to some of our favorite restaurants and sit outside in the street, and we've opened up outdoor dining around down the street from where I live. And just my wife and I had a chance to go out last week, and we're just talking about how meaningful and how special it felt. And again, it's because these small businesses are so important. They're part of our community. They're what bring us together. And then look, and if you want to, step back in the big picture, small businesses typically employ 60, 70% of workers in most countries. It differs from country to country. But, if you talk about reduction of poverty, income inequality, growth of economies, right? Small businesses are huge. And unfortunately, so that's the good side. The downside is at a time like this, they're really struggling, right? And we see this individually in our own lives, and we get to see this in a variety of ways. One of the things that we've sought to do from the outset of this crisis is just to be a source of information. So we did this in some of the resources we've built in terms of our resource hub for businesses at facebook.com/business. But we also wanted to help bring more insight to what's going on. As you said, we started a monthly report, our Global State of Small Business Report. And so each month we survey over 25,000 small business leaders in over 50 countries. And so, some of what it tells us is probably, unfortunately, somewhat intuitive, just in terms of how many businesses are struggling right now. We've seen that starting in May, 26% of small businesses had closed because of the pandemic, with more than half shuttering in some countries. But you also get to see some of the good. You see that small businesses are still largely optimistic, even in the face of what's got to be the worst time that many have faced, about their plans for the future, their belief they're going to bounce back. And so you see these two sides. Look, we saw in July some businesses began opening up, but 33% of small businesses reported they had reduced their workforce. I think one of the other things that really comes through, unfortunately, from these reports is just that the data is even worse for female and minority-owned businesses. And that's frankly why this project is so important, and just understanding, supporting small businesses are so important. At Facebook, we've taken two steps, creating two $100 million grant programs, one to support small businesses around the world. And then a second one, really coming out of research like the one I just mentioned, was focused on small businesses, Black-owned small businesses in the US, Black creators, nonprofits, and created another $100 million in grants and ad credits. So we've really focused on that. At the same time, look, Facebook as a company, at the end of the day, we're a product company, a technology company. And so what we also did was basically go through a massive internal process to say, didn't quite rip up our roadmap and our plans for the year, but took some pretty heavy red pens to them and did things like recognize that in a world where so many businesses, particularly SMEs, were going to need more digital tools than they might have had or might have had going into this. We launched a new product called Shops. It creates fully customizable digital storefronts. We've seen huge adoption of that. And, it's been rewarding. This is like two sides. On the one hand, it's tough to see businesses struggling and going through this and shuttering doors. I was just talking to a friend in New York City yesterday, and he and his wife have stayed in Manhattan, which not everyone has. And he said he would guess that a quarter of the restaurants that they had gone to pre-pandemic are just gone, and others are struggling. So that's really challenging. On the other hand, we're seeing a lot of businesses who might have said back, last year, look, I'm a brick and mortar business. I don't know how to do digital. I can't, or I won't. Necessity becomes actually is forcing some innovation. And the good news is we've seen any number of businesses figure out, maybe some it's just doing delivery or pickup, or some it's going into new business areas. I just spoke a week or two ago to a woman in Brooklyn, New York, who owns 2 hair salons that specialize in braiding for a Black clientele. She's discovered she's done online learning. She couldn't for the longest time host people in her salon. So instead, she just set up on Instagram and other platforms and started teaching people and making money that way. So look, I think there's a lot of great stories coming out of it, but it's all under an umbrella of like, this is a tough time. And so from our standpoint is looking at the things we can do on the product side, on the information side, in some cases, creating special programs to support small businesses. And I think that's, that's what any of us who can do, hopefully will continue to step up and support entrepreneurs who are, again, at the heart of what makes our communities tick.
Indeed, indeed. Because surely, after the pain, that recovery has to come. And as you talked about some of those examples there, that kind of wanting to dream of getting bigger and wanting to do new innovative things. I think that those are the stories that we all want to hear as well. Part of that, and I have to ask you, obviously, and you talked about digital platform, obviously, the tech adoption as well. As an industry, we love and have loved using words like digital transformation, kind of almost thrown it around really without really understanding it. But what this pandemic really has done for us is that tech adoption has had to, businesses haven't had the option, but they've had to amplify that and really understand what the digital transformation means. And indeed, when it comes to small businesses who lack the kind of resources, as you've just talked about, what are some of the insights that you can share that these businesses need to adopt, whether it comes in investing some of the tools, whether it means collaborating with other businesses, because e-commerce is not something that comes naturally to a lot of these businesses. So how do you think, as an industry, we can help these small businesses then?
Well, I mean, it's such an important question on multiple levels. I think, to paraphrase some of what you were just saying, we've talked for a long time, certainly at Facebook, but not just at Facebook, throughout the world, certainly in our industry, about disruption. And disruption was often seen as hey, this company is disruptive. And, in some cases, warnings, your industry will get disrupted, your company will get disrupted if you don't do it to yourself first. Well, now we've had this massive disrupting force, right, that's come in this pandemic. That's the challenge. But, the good news is that businesses are finding that they can disrupt themselves, and there are steps they can take. Unfortunately, not all of them, but a lot of them. And one of the things that I think is most amazing is that crisis has served in some ways as a time machine, right? A lot of these conversations that you've had over time, well, these changes are going to come. We've seen, if you actually look at the before and after and the pace of adoption of digital tools, I would say, give or take 5 years of acceleration have happened in a matter of months in terms of adoption of business tools from a consumer standpoint, the amount of e-commerce purchasing that people are doing relative to in-person. And I don't think we're going back. I look forward to the days when we can go back to some of life as normal and go back to offices. We can go back to doing a lot of the things that we did before. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that I hadn't thought about being possible, and I think a lot of businesses hadn't thought about being possible. And so adopting those, I talked earlier about a woman who was, her salon she's called Magic Fingers for the hair braiding. Another small business owner I had a chance to talk to also by video, like we're doing here, was a woman named Lindsay Shanks, who's the co-owner of a company in Chicago called Exo Marshmallow, which I hadn't heard of, a marshmallow cafe before. She said it's the first one she knows of in the world. And, they did a good business with people coming into the store. Well, guess what? They couldn't do that. So they had to find a way to, have people be able to pick up, but also to have an e-commerce part of their business, which they had. It wasn't that they weren't doing any of it, but it was really small. But then they suddenly saw opportunities. And one of the things that she said that I really loved is she said, particularly early on, Amazon was saying, we have to prioritize certain goods and other things are going to take much, much longer. She said, hey, at Exo Marshmallow, we can get you stuff really fast. So in some ways, we can outcompete some of the big guys. And I thought that was pretty interesting and innovative, because it just showed the way that she was thinking creatively about what can we do in the face of a situation we never would have asked for, but how do we handle it? And so her online sales have increased 400%. And so that doesn't change the fact this is an incredibly difficult situation in a difficult time. But I think, trying to help businesses handle that. So we've set up, in addition to the tools, to things like the Shops product that I mentioned, to help businesses who may have had no online presence. That's one of the things that's been surprising is, I expected businesses would come and say, great, one more place I can sell goods. But a bunch of businesses, a high number actually of the businesses who were signed up had no online presence and said, okay, we need an online presence. Also offering a lot of resources and free trainings, because let's face it, this is a different world, and businesses and entrepreneurs need that help. So we have a blueprint training program that offers advice in everything, all the things that we do. That's a free resource. And so, really, we've poured more energy and money into those kind of programs as well, because I think, as you said in your question, there's a lot each of us has areas that we can offer support in. And so our view is, let's figure out what we can do to help and jump in.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much for that. I have one last question, very, very briefly, because the idea around this whole campaign and the impressive work that the 3 teams from UK, Singapore, and the US have put in is to try and amplify, and obviously, the best intentions in the world to try and address some of the imbalances that are in our society can't be addressed overnight. But the idea is to try and get the industry together to help provide some of these solutions. Do you have any last words for either the teams or for the industry to try and help and pitch in?
Well, look, I think I would say 2 things. One is we all have things to offer. We all have expertise. And, frankly, we all probably need help too. And I think this is a perfect time. We've seen so many examples of businesses, of people coming together in ways that maybe we never would have thought of before, maybe just not thought possible before. And so the second thing I'd say related to that is we are so powerful when we come together. And I think one of the opportunities that we have is, and frankly, that the teams here represented, because they're teams from different companies, different places, they may not collaborate. Some cases you may compete. Here in the US, we have an incredible organization, nonprofit called the Ad Council, that I'm actually the chairman of the board right now. And it brings together companies throughout the advertising industry who work on public service announcements, including right now on things like awareness around COVID, and hopefully going forward around steps that we can take as we start to have additional steps or vaccines. And I really see in that work the best of our industry, the best of the people, because we come together for a common cause and some really important societal issues. And I think that stuff is possible. It doesn't always come up day to day when we're busy trying to focus on making our own businesses successful, and in some cases competing. But I think stepping back and seeing those opportunities, I really think we are at our best as people, as companies, as an industry, when we're doing that in addition to our day jobs, just as these 3 teams did. And so I hope that all of us can make sure that we're piling some of our energy into that kind of work, because societies, our communities, our countries benefit when we do.
Brilliant. I'm going to take that from you, best of our industry and best of the people. That's essentially what is at the heart of the Drum and the Facebook Marketing Can Change the World initiative. And our hope is, as an industry, you can come and help in and pitch in as much as possible as well. Thank you, David. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for your time. And thank you for watching.
Thanks to you, Snoot. Thanks to the Drum, and thanks to everybody. Thanks to the teams and to everybody who joined us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, and bye-bye.